The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.
Empire.
Football meets Hollywood.
They're all in their, early 20s. They're all gamers. They all kind of grew up with video gaming and social media. And so we think what this league's going to provide is that platform that they're used to really kind of show themselves, build their social profile and social credibility and their brand. And we think we can give them an opportunity to really kind of connect with fans in a way that hasn't been done before.
That's Sohrob Forudi, CEO of the Fan-Controlled Football League. You want to take over the play calling? You can. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Sohrob Forudi's idea isn't exclusive, but how they are building the Fan-Controlled Football League is, turning the field into a set and the players into all-access reality stars, at the same time giving you the means to control the action. It is Thanksgiving conversation worthy. Plus, we'll look into the idea of how the old-school footballers are dealing with the new-school gambling legalities and whether integrity fees are viable. But first, the future is now. All of the old school brands, they are getting into the new school tech as they try to reach far and wide for the fans of the future. That includes the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the oldest franchises in the National Football League. And Bill Brink from the Pittsburgh Post Gazette joins us now. Hey, Bill, how are you?
I'm doing great, Bram. How are you?
What are they using tech for, and how are they trying to reach people differently now?
Well, they're trying to enhance the game day experience of the fans they already have, because they pretty much have the Pittsburgh market saturated. There's not too many people in Pittsburgh who are football fans that they haven't already converted into diehard black and gold type of people. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make the stadium more tenable, I guess, than the couch, right? They're trying to make it easier to find concessions and bathrooms and park and get into the stadium and not have your ticket counterfeited. They have some new ticketing technology with rotating barcodes. The other thing they're trying to do is they're trying to use the internet and social media to increase fan bases overseas, specifically Mexico, which already has a big Steelers fan base because of an exhibition game in the early 90s, and also when football reached Mexican television, the Steel Curtain dynasty of the 70s was at full steam. They're also trying to reach fans via social media in Brazil, in China, and for some reason, the Steelers have a big following in Germany, so they're branching out there too, trying to cultivate fans around the world, because that means more interest. More interest obviously means more revenue, more league pass and jersey sales and all that type of thing.
Let's get into Germany for a moment, because you chuckled when you said that. Why have they made headway in that country? Have you gotten to the bottom of that?
I think it's a little bit similar to Brazil in that it's a country of sports fans. There are a lot of soccer fans in Germany. They're passionate about sport and competition the same way Brazilians are. And until, I know that the NFL Europe has been around for a while, but they haven't quite had the access to the actual NFL product that they do now with, NFL League Pass and more, satellite opportunities where you can actually see the games. And so I think that's been a big part of it, is just they're not seeing the watered down version of the product. They're seeing the product itself. And you combine the thrill of an NFL football game with a bunch of people that love sports, and I think it's a good match.
Let's talk about China here for a moment as well. How are they going about trying to cultivate NFL fans there?
Well, what they're doing is they're using a social media platform called Weibo, which is one of the more popular social media platforms in China. And they actually are being assisted by NFL China. They recently, I believe this started last year, they found a student at Carnegie Mellon here in Pittsburgh who spoke Chinese, and they were able to film some original content. Previously, they'd been sending over highlight packages and that type of things and pictures and graphics, but they were actually able to film some original content, send it over, and then with a little help from NFL China, distribute it on Weibo. And now what they're actually doing is they're holding contests so that people will interact with them on social media with the chance to win tickets and a all expenses paid trip to a game in Heinz Field.
They're such an interesting franchise to talk about this with. They're still family-owned. They've been around forever. Their brand seems to be very stable in the way that they present themselves, the way that they build their team. All of these things have remained very stable through the years. Did they have a hard time coming around to embracing all of this technology and putting their brand out there in a different way?
It doesn't sound like they did. It sounds like this was kind of the natural evolution or next step. In my reporting, I didn't come across any major aha moments or anybody that joined the organization that said, man, we got to ramp this up. It was sort of, this was the next step to go about doing. And I think you make a good point that it helps that they are the Steelers. I mean, there's probably a couple teams where this could work for, right? Maybe the Cowboys, maybe the Patriots, maybe the Giants, Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers in baseball. There are teams that are known internationally more so than others, and I think you might have a little more trouble if you were, say, the Kansas City Chiefs pulling this off. But I think the fact that they are the Steelers, they have the brand. Roethlisberger has been here for as long as he has. They have some established star power that I think this was kind of a good next step for them as they try to expand their fan base. You
could read more from Bill Brink in the Pittsburgh Post Gazette. Thank you so much, Bill.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, Sohrob Forudi on what the future of football in real-life video game form can look like. This is the Future Sport Podcast. Our guest this week is Sohrob Forudi, who is the CEO of the Fan-Controlled Football League. No explanation needed for that. Thanks for joining us, Sohrob.
Thanks for having me.
What is it that you guys actually do?
Well, we're building, I think the easy way to explain it is a real-life version of Madden. This is an entire league kind of reinvented for the digital age. We're really building the league for the fan that isn't in the arena or the stadium and is participating at home or on the road from their computer or mobile device.
With real players?
Real players, yeah. It's 7-on-7 indoor football, helmets, shoulder pads. Guys right out of college, going to be really good talent on the field. But fans get to call all the plays in real time. They get to also hire the coaches, pick the players for the team. It's really like a season-long version of Madden in franchise mode, and we'll have eight teams in the league, and fans get to kind of make all the decisions along the way with for these 8 teams.
So there's 8 teams. Is there a literal virtual franchise owner, or is it kind of groupthink? You get together and kind of determine how the teams are going to play?
Yeah, look, we wanted to kind of take a fresh at the way leagues are built, and so we went with the influencer model. So our entire league is in one location. Everything's going to be in Vegas. Instead of playing in an arena, we play in a production studio, which gives us an opportunity to build out a set, more like an American Ninja Warriors or a BattleBot style visual. And then, by having everybody in one location, you reduce a bunch of the costs associated with running a league, but what you lose is the city-based, kind of regional idea of teams. And so, being in the day of the influencer, we decided that we'd have all of the teams really run by influencers. So we have 8, big influencers that are going to be running our teams. We've announced 6 of them so far. A couple of big NFL guys, Marshawn Lynch, Richard Sherman, Chad Johnson, a big Latin pop star, a guy by the name of Prince Royce, a group out of the esports and gaming community called Kinda Funny, a big country music guy, Bobby Bones. So really looking, we kind of wanted to go out and find influencers in a bunch of different genres that could really activate a fan base and bring that first wave of fans into the league to brand the team and then pick the players and run a full season as if they were the offensive coordinator and GM.
Will the fans know the names of the players? How recognizable will the players be to them?
Yeah, we think we're going to get guys out of college, people that you see playing on Saturdays. We're running a startup and we want to make sure we're around a long time. So We're not going to be, paying millions of dollars to bring guys into the league, but I think there's a quality group of football players every year that graduates from college, and there's really nowhere for them to go other than, a couple hundred spots in the NFL. So we think there's a great pool of talent to be able to pull from. And if you think about the guys coming out of college these days, they're all in their, early 20s. They're all gamers. They all kind of grew up with video gaming and social media. And so we think what this league's going to provide is that platform that they're used to really kind of show themselves, build their social profile and social credibility and their brand. And we think we can give them an opportunity to really kind of connect with fans in a way that hasn't been done before.
You're going to have them on a set. Are you planning to have live fans there?
We are. There's going to be a really intimate kind of television studio audience, about 1,000 people. There'll be a nice VIP section for our celebrities and influencers that are going to come to the games live. And the idea is really, putting fans on top of the game. But we wanted that real intimate feel and make it somewhat exclusive. So as a fan, when you get a chance, you win a ticket or you earn it, or you're able to. We're not going to sell them. The idea is you're gonna figure out a way to kind of earn them or win them as a fan, and then it'll be a really, really exciting experience to be able to come to one of the games.
You said you could pick players, you could fire coaches. I assume, though, you want to have some kind of control so that people don't just willy-nilly do things like that, right?
Yeah, we do. And so and by the way, this is something we put into practice. So we actually owned a team back in 2017 in the Indoor Football League. At that time, the Indoor Football League was 10 teams. We bought a brand new franchise in Utah, and we let fans make every decision. So, we played a 16-game season. Fans named the team, they designed the logo, they hired the coach. They chose all the players, and then they called all the plays in real time from a mobile app. So we had a good sense of how this would play out. But one of the things that we created back then, and we're going to continue moving forward, we call it our virtual front office. It's a paid kind of subscription membership for fans. But what it does is it creates a group of fans that are the diehards that are putting, hours a day into the team. A lot of these are kind of diehard fantasy football people, which probably a lot of people listening are as well. And we all know how much time we spend on fantasy. So this is the opportunity to kind of spend that time that you normally spend on fantasy on actually a real team. We have twice a week, two-way video sessions. So our front office fans are talking to our coaching staff and our front office staff, and even with the players. So really learning the intricacies of the game, the sport, how to manage it. And then that's the group of fans that will bring some of these decisions out to the general fan base. So it'll first be kind of curated in this smaller group, and obviously get some kind of professional guidance from the people that are running the leagues. But at the end of the day, this is a league run by the fans, and we're going to let their voice be heard. We had our first team name in that team in the Indoor Football League. We were very close to being named Teamy McTeamface. I was interviewed all over the place, and people just couldn't believe, are you really going to let this team be named Teamy McTeamface? I said, look, this is about the fans. This is if they want it to be Teamy McTeamface and they want to wear, Teamy McTeamface jerseys and buy the hats, I mean, that's for them to decide. And I think that's what's really exciting about what we're building is, we're going to end up with 8 very interesting brands. We're going to have some bumps along the way. Whenever you kind of turn this over, we'll get trolled, and we know that. And we've built some controls in place to prevent, kind of the craziness. But we want the excitement, right? We want that unknown. I think that's the drama in live sports is why we all tune in, and I think we're creating that a little bit of that drama outside of it in the franchise itself for fans to be able to participate in.
Teamy McTeamface and Bodie McBokeface are the modern version of the bad tattoo. Really, that's what they are.
Exactly.
That's what it's the ultimate regret. It's funny for 10 minutes, and then about an hour later you go, how do we change this? But I guess if the fans are in control, they could change the name anytime they wanted.
That's right. Well, yeah, we were, by the way, we were almost the Storm and Mormons as well, which would also been pretty great in Utah. So.
That's not bad, actually. That one might have a little more lasting power. Okay, so go back to the thing in Utah in a moment here. What did you learn about the fans doing this that they inherently were pretty good at when putting all these pieces together? And what were the parts that you learned from this that you kind of know the fans need a little help and guidance in the right direction?
Yeah, look, I think we learned pretty quickly that if you give fans an opportunity, that they actually make good decisions, right? There's that whole idea of the wisdom of the crowd, and we saw it in action. So, back to that the team name vote, because I think it's the easiest one to kind of look at. Our original voting process, you didn't have to register. So anybody around the globe could literally come in and upvote for we were creating a top 10 list out of fan submissions, and that top 10 list was built based on upvotes from the fan base. And you didn't have to be a registered user to do it. So, our top 10 list had, Team McTeam was number one, the Storm and Mormons, the Electric Emus, the Salt Lake Spaghetti Monsters. I mean, it was just, a crazy list of names. And then there were a couple in there, including what we ended up being was the Salt Lake Screaming Eagles, that were in that top 10. So after we had our top 10, we said, okay, now we're locking down this list, and if you want to vote for the final name, you've got to register and you got to download the app. So we put a couple of hurdles in place to really kind of weed the trolls out and put true fans in the position to make the decision. And the true fans voted for the Salt Lake Screaming Eagles, right? They didn't want to be Team McTeam Face. They were taking this seriously. And we saw that over and over again. Our coaching votes, the players that they decided they wanted, our play calling, out of 10 teams, we had the third ranked offense in the league run by our fans. And it wasn't even close. I mean, the top three versus the bottom seven. I mean, the two that the number one and number two offenses played in the championship game. So, I mean, we showed kind of again and again, give the fans an opportunity and they won't let you down. And that's what we're basing this on is, at the end of the day, you have pride as a fan, right? I mean, I was born in Texas. I'm a huge Cowboys fan. If I had the decision to make, if I had the power to make some decisions or vote on things, there's no way I'm voting on something that's bad. I want the Cowboys to win the Super Bowl every year. And I think what we want to try to build is that culture where the fans really care about the outcome, and they're vested in that outcome. And I think when you do that, you get good decision making.
Let's talk about the tech of the in-game experience here. So they're calling the plays, which means it needs to be communicated very quickly there. Can you kind of take us through how that all is going to work?
Yeah, so we actually announced a deal with Twitch. So we're going to be building this entire experience into the Twitch platform. So if you're not familiar, Twitch owned by Amazon. It's kind of one of the top esports and gaming platforms out there. It's become a really interesting live sports platform as well. Thursday Night Football was on Twitch this past season. NBA G League is on Twitch. So it's an interesting platform where, kind of builds communities around these streams. And they launched something last year, which they call their extensions, which allows an interactive panel on top of the video player. So you can watch whatever that stream is, and then you can interact with this overlay at the same time. And so that's where we're building this experience, is kind of this one single screen experience where you'll be able to watch the game and call the plays in real time. Obviously, there's latency involved going through the Twitch platform, and the good news is we're building this league, so we're going to create the stoppages and the things that we need in the run of the game to make sure that we account for those that latency. And latency is going to be a thing of the past in the next couple of years. 5G is going to be here before we know it. Latency gets better every year, and before you know it, we won't have to deal with latency. But in the meantime, somewhat suboptimal that we've got 5, 6, 8 seconds of delay, but we're building that into the back end process, so it won't affect the fan experience.
I want to go back to the idea of the regionality, which has always been part of the sports discussion. And you're a big Cowboys fan. You grew up in Texas, right? So you grew up with the Dallas Cowboys, and they're not just the Cowboys. Although they always painted themselves as America's team for a long time, and that used that to their advantage. We've talked to a lot of different people because of the globalization of sports and the connectivity of all the fans around the world. that maybe it's not the Golden State Warriors anymore. It's just the Warriors. And there are leagues like yours here that's coming out and not specifically saying this team is from Sacramento. The Big Three doesn't regionalize their teams. Yep. Paul Rabel's new league in lacrosse is not regionalizing anybody. They're touring around with a bunch of different teams. Do you see this kind of as a wave of sports in the future where it doesn't really matter as much to have the name of the city or the state or the country attached to it?
Yeah, I really do. And to be honest with you, I actually think at this point in time, given the direction fans are headed, the younger demos are not going to games. It's harder to get people to get to stadiums and arenas. The problem, I'll bring up the AAF as a prime example. When you limit yourself to 8 markets, you exclude the rest of the world. And to me, that's really the problem, right? So you've now, kind of taken this, what they wanted, the AAF wanted to be kind of this next football league. And honestly, I think the XFL is going to suffer from a similar fate, which is you've bet on 8 markets and you've bet on butts in seats and hot dogs and beer in those 8 markets, right? And outside of that, where's your fandom coming from, right? Now, everybody likes good football, and sure, if it's quality football and it's on, we'll tune in. But you're not going to create those diehard rabid fans. I'm in LA. I'm not going to follow, one of these. I didn't follow the AAF, and I'm not going to follow the XFL because I just don't have that connection. Now, if there was another way for me to connect or another reason for me to connect, which we think the influencer model is the right way, I think that just opens up your opportunity for this kind of global connected fan, which is where we are right now. And we looked at not only that, we looked at really everything about our league. I mean, we thought about how can we reinvent the sport of football for the digital age, and that's what we've done. Our games are 1 hour from start to finish. We completely eliminated the kicking game. We've got our extra point is a one-on-one battle between a wide receiver and a defensive back. Quarterback has 3 seconds to throw the ball, so you create this, this additional play that's all the drama. The game could end on this extra point, and instead of it coming from a kicker who nobody cares about, who's been sitting on the bench the whole game, you get an offense. The quarterback is the number one guy on the team usually, and then a wide receiver and a DB jawing at each other back and forth, going to win the game, which is what everybody wants to see. So we thought about a lot of ways that we could improve the game and create an experience where the digital fan can, watch from anywhere and actually have an impact on the game and feel connected in a way that they haven't before. And lean into that gaming environment, which is the largest growing sport in the world is esports, right? And the fastest growing and the younger demos are all going into gaming. We felt like there was a real interesting opportunity in between traditional sports and gaming to carve out a niche that was based on traditional sports, right? And that's where, we're not just looking at football. We think there's an opportunity to do this across other sports as well, and we're having those conversations.
You're in this controlled environment. You've talked here about some of the rule type of changes that your fans will get accustomed to as they actually play on the field. In terms of presentation, because we're talking a lot here about the digital experience, how do you envision the presentation for the fans who will be watching this?
So I think it's we have a guy. Well, so we've got a partnership. We've also announced with IMG. So IMG is going to be doing our live game production. But we brought in a guy with really interesting experience. A guy named Ariel Horn started his career at NBC Sports and did traditional arena football, Sunday night football, the Olympics, and really kind of cut his teeth over there. But spent the last 7 years at League of Legends. At Riot Games, and built out his. He when he left the company last year, he was the global head of esports content. He won an Emmy for this AR dragon that he had come fly through the bird's nest in China for their world finals. And really, he's the one that kind of brought the lens on how you bring a traditional kind of sports shooting to esports. And one of the things that he did that hadn't really been done before was he started putting cameras on the players themselves, right? Before, everybody was just watching the video game, and he's like, no, this is really about the players. And that's, so he started bringing them more into the fold and started the storytelling around the actual guys playing the video game rather than just the video game. And that's when that whole ecosystem really started to develop. So, what we're doing is going to come a lot from Ariel's experience on both kind of traditional and esports. And, we want to bring a different lens to it. We're going to have a lot of overhead shots. When even in Utah in 2017, a lot of our stuff was done from drone cameras. We had 2 drones flying around the field most of the time, giving some really interesting kind of Madden-like shots of the game. Helmet cameras, all of those things that you expect. And the beauty is, instead of having to set up and tear down like most places do when you're at an arena or a stadium, we're in a production studio and we're going to be there for 4 months. So we get to set up, we get to build it, we get to create this really, really interesting production environment that I think will create an experience for fans visually that just hasn't been, kind of seen before in the sport of football.
It feels like there's kind of this NASCAR opportunity where they've got the traditional cameras, but they've got a camera in every car. You could literally be with them if you want to be, and you guys are putting cameras literally on the players. You could follow any matchup. You could have a star cam type of situation. You could do literally anything with this.
Yeah, that's look. We talk about this a little bit as almost like a sports technology lab, right? We've got a lot of really interesting strategic partners that are going to be coming into the league. We're going to be testing a lot of cutting edge tech and wearables and sensors. And we announced a partnership with Wilson. We're using their connected football, and there's just a whole lot of really interesting things that can be done when you centralize a league. And we think not only from the content and the excitement of the game itself, but really from a business opportunity, looking at how we can become the league that, maybe not necessarily sends hundreds of players up to the NFL, but we'd love to be the developmental league for technology, right? Where we've got a fan base that is, hungry, that's young, that's looking for kind of new ways to engage and new data to look at and digest. And hopefully we'll be able to kind of lead the pack and then send some of that stuff up to the big boys where they can use it in the bigger leagues.
That all sounds really cool. Sohrob Forudi is the CEO of the Fan-Controlled Football League. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot.
Up next, Dustin Gouker on the idea of an integrity fee. This is the Future Sport Podcast. So let's take a minute here to thank our friends at 3Advance. These guys are ranked one of the nation's top app developers, but that's not all. They've helped grow a bunch of sports tech startups like Team Builder, T-Box Tour, and in-game fantasy, but they're also experts in user experience, cloud APIs, and artificial intelligence. So if you're looking for a dev partner to bring your future sport tech to life, look these guys up. Go to 3advance.com. They're the team to make it happen, and advance you will. That's the number 3advance.com, and tell them Future Sport sent you. Now that sports gambling is a states' rights issue, it will be within the rights of those who win the contracts to determine what piece of that pie is going to go back to the leagues for what many deem with the word integrity. Dustin Gouker from Legal Sports Report is here, and Sport Radar has become a partner with the leagues, and they want a percentage, right?
Yeah, they actually have a deal that allows them to provide data to sportsbook operators around the country and internationally, and they're doing that on behalf of the NFL. The most recent news is that they're going to operators and saying, if you want to use our feed for official data that's coming from the NFL, you have to pay X amount to do that. So, yeah, this is something we're seeing with a lot of leagues and a lot of as in the feeling out process of legal sports betting in the United States. We're just seeing how the commercially operated things work and how leagues and sports books and states all interact. So this is the latest example of that.
So Sport Radar or the leagues, if they are going to go back and say this is official data, how do they differentiate it from however data is being generated by others?
So yeah, you're getting when the NFL says, okay, here a touchdown was scored, in theory you're getting that as fast as you possibly can, because if you're watching it on TV or getting it through any other feed, there's going to be some kind of latency there. So they do have an argument that this is really happening fast, and this is important in the world of online betting, where you have betting while games are going on, not just in front of the games, betting on point spreads and things like that. If you want to bet on outcomes in the middle of the game and have odds and do that in the fastest way possible, then there's an argument for this official data and getting it directly from the leagues and their data partner, which is here, Sportradar.
Do you believe they have any real leverage in this?
They do, kind of. Like most of the betting right now, Nevada historically has been pre-game betting. Like I said, it's betting on spreads, betting on money lines, betting on futures. So you don't really need official data for that. But what you do need it for is that live betting aspect. If you want to have people on your app, betting on your app and saying, okay, we need to have the best odds and have the best, as up to date and being as fast as possible, then that's a pretty compelling offer, because those few seconds between you getting it from a TV feed and getting it directly from a data feed from the NFL, that could be meaningful. Now, I don't have insight into exactly how that works and how quickly it's happening and how valuable it is, but there's going to be some sportsbook operators that say, yes, this is a valuable thing for us as we get our sportsbooks up and running, and increasingly using live betting to do that.
There is a possibility to a federal mandate. There's bipartisan support. Senators Chuck Schumer and Mitt Romney are behind a bill that, if it were to be introduced, it would potentially institute what they're calling this integrity fee. I wonder if you think that that's really going to happen.
I don't find it very realistic that Congress is going to get involved. There's no bill yet. If they don't get a bill through this year, next year is an election year. I just don't think it's terribly likely. Gambling has been traditionally something that's been handed over to the states to say whether you want to do it and how you want to do it. We already have, I believe it's 18 states that have passed some sort of law coming in retroactively and telling states, oh, you have to follow these federal guidelines. It's going to be a tough sell, for anybody who's a proponent of states' rights and what's gone on in the past in gambling. So I don't think it's super likely, but, stranger things have happened. The NFL and the other leagues do have some mojo when it comes to getting something done in Congress if they really, really want to.
I mean, listen, I understand there's lobbying and contributions that get behind something like this if it were to be able to go through. But I will say this on its face, and I wonder if you agree with this, that when the NFL or another league comes back and says, look, we do feel like we need to put more safeguards into ensuring the integrity of our games, and that is going to cost us. And so to ensure these games are on the up and up as much as possible, you need to help us a little bit here. And I agree with them to some degree about that.
Yeah, you can make that argument for sure. There's the other side of the coin is that this is not like betting is new on the NFL. You and I could go to any number of offshore sports books and place bets. So the only thing that's changing is maybe the volume of betting with the advent of legal sports betting. So there's been tons of wagering already going on in the NFL. If the NFL wasn't paying attention to betting on its games before, it's certainly that's probably a mistake. I don't believe that's the case. They've taken it seriously even before this. So when you say you have to give them money to do it, I don't know. I think that's not necessarily the truth. But that's an argument that can be made, and that certainly the leagues are making in state houses and in Congress right now.
We'll see how it plays out. It's going to be interesting as all these laws continue to change around the country. Dustin Gouker from Legal Sports Report. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
That will do it for us this week. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Whitestein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3 Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3 Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.